Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our show brought to you by Safety Systems, commercial and residential fire and life security systems. Just one of the reasons to call Safety Systems. Top-of-the-line equipment, professional installation, support, including monitoring and emergency calls, emergency hours. They do great work. Safety Systems. Folks, the SEC East race is coming down to it. Look there at the top. Florida 4-2. You're basically back to where you were before the South Carolina loss because you hold the tiebreaker with Florida. If they lose one more game and you win out, you've got Kentucky, Missouri, and Vandy. And let me tell you, I think Kentucky's going to be a challenge. I think Missouri, not that good, but it could be. Vanderbilt's going to be a real challenge. They play with everybody. They got a defense. That game is not a laugher. But if Florida loses once and you win out, you're going to Atlanta. We kind of jumped ahead there, but that's all right. Look at this one, tiebreaker scenarios. If there's a two-way tie, as I just said, Tennessee and Florida, if you tie at 5-3, Tennessee wins the East. You could have a four-way tie, Tennessee, Florida, Kentucky, and South Carolina, and I'm not going to go through all the different ways you get there, the permutations, and I just wanted to use that word. But if you get there at 4-4, South Carolina would win a four-way tie based on SEC tiebreakers. If it's a five-way tie or even a six-way tie, Tennessee goes to Atlanta. So if you finish in a tie with Florida, if you finish in a five-way tie or six-way tie, you're going to Atlanta. Now, my question is, those people who do not like Butch Jones, once you got them, they're there for good. It's hard to get them back. They're looking for reasons to get rid of this guy. If you make it to Atlanta, they're going to say, even though the goal was just get to Atlanta, they're going to say, well, you backed in. I guarantee you right now you'd have them saying, doesn't count, backed in. There's no way they're going to always move the goalpost. Would that be backing in? Or was the goal simply Atlanta? If you go 8-4, 4-4 in the league, and still make it to Atlanta, does that count the same?
I think it does. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to focus on the game in front of you and let the situation take it. And I think John Wooden was quoted, and people who get the most out of the situations are the ones that usually make the most out of every situation that they're put into. And so it just naturally falls into place. So, no, I don't think you just back into it. I think you've won it.
Shazan, anything to backing into a championship?
No, I mean, you got these young guys, Kelly, John Kelly, and these young guys that are coming up. They're really trying to make a name for themselves, and they really want to play the game of football, and they're excited about it. LSU is going to go down there, and they're going to wire Florida out. So we're headed that way. And that's not a back end. You're there. I mean, bottom line, at the end of the day, everybody had to line up. Everybody had to do what they had to do. I mean, you're there.
Kyler?
Yeah, I mean, you set out at the beginning of the season, what was your goal? Is to end the streak, to beat Florida and Georgia, and then go to the SEC Championship. That's what you did. So, I mean, you can't fault the guy. He's won more games every single year that he's been here. And just a few short years ago, I've said this before, we were 5-7, 3 years in a row. We could not go to a bowl game. Now we're going to go to the SEC Championship if we win out. Be happy about that.
If we went out, if they went out, and if Florida loses,
yes.
But I think they are going to lose at LSU.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't rule out the South Carolina game either. If they don't play offense better than they did against Arkansas, Sterling, is it backing into a championship if you make it to Atlanta with the 9-3 record instead of 10-2? If you make it at 8-4 instead of 10-2?
The only way you back into an SEC championship game is if Michael Jackson was on your team and he was doing the moonwalk. That's it. Cancel Christmas, baby. I'm giving it to you real. If you don't give this coaching staff kudos for the job that they're doing, in fact, we're already bowl eligible with all the injuries that we've had and our premier players being hurt, then I question your football IQ. But some of you don't have to have one because you don't play. I understand that. What we need you to do is put all that energy that you're trying to put negative out there, turn it to positive, and if you do that, you can help us win these last 3 games.
It's hot. Get on the
bus.
Get on the bus, baby. Get on
Interesting.
the bus.
Not happy with the negative, folks.
No, well, because we had 20 players hurt, John.
I know.
20 players.
They don't want to hear it. No excuses.
I go with that. The coaching staff did not make an excuse.
Coach them up.
They
Next
never made an excuse. All they did was create a situation for us to have a winning program again, and then the chance to get back to Atlanta. I get
Next
it.
man up.
I get it. But in reality, when you come back to reality, our coaching staff did an excellent job giving the hand that it was dealt.
Don't want to hear it. No excuses. Next man up. Coach them up.
And I'll say this: the guys that have already, lost their faith in Coach Jones and everything else. I actually watched a video today called "Eloquence of a Coach" on YouTube. If you get a chance, go look it up, and it's all your Deweyisms for the 3 years he was here. And so if you're upset with Coach Jones, how he's talking to the media and things like that, just remember how much you loved Coach Dooley and how he gave these crazy stories, but you only won, I think, 15 games in the time.
Yeah, exactly. All right. You know, I agree with you. I think injuries are very much real. We've been talking about it all year. It's not an end-all, be-all. It's not the total reason you've got 3 losses right now, but you can't excuse it. You can't ignore it. It's silly to try and do that. When we come back, well, I'm fired up. That was good. When we come back, he's fired up about this. He ain't fired up about the pick segment because Chuck even tried to give him one last week. I told Chuck, be lenient, pick some crazy score. He did, and Tennessee won the blowout. So poor Sterling. We'll see the standings when we come back.